Hello and welcome to Auspol Explained. I'm your bearded host David, as always here to explain how a few things in the Australian political system works. And today's topic is why you shouldn't use a tick or a cross to vote in a referendum. When voting in a referendum, it's actually incredibly straightforward and simple. You are given a proposed change to the Constitution. You'll know the wording in advance and you'll be asked if you agree with that proposed change. You then write yes or no clearly in a box. But this begs then the question, can you vote in other ways? For example, can you use a tick or a cross when voting? Would they signify the same thing? The simple answer is no. The AEC will try to ensure that votes are counted if the voter's intention is clear. So for example, if you write the letter Y or N, clearly that can still be counted. However, if your handwriting is messy, it might make it difficult to read. So writing yes and no in full makes it absolutely clear. The issue when it comes to ticks and crosses is that they are not as straightforward as some people might think. A tick may be counted as a yes, but the AEC does not recommend it. I'm not telling you to do that. However, a cross, well, that is actually ambiguous. It doesn't necessarily always mean no. There are legal forms that you cross a box when you want to choose that one, and in other languages than English, sometimes that can represent a yes. So, because of this, the long-standing legal advice for the past 30 plus years is that a cross is unclear and open to a challenge, or even just informal. You would think that a cross is the opposite to a tick, but that's only when those are the two opposing options and the only two available to you. In the absence of any instructions telling you to use one or the other, well, then we reach that ambiguity. A cross could actually mean yes or no. However, this is pretty much a non-issue. This is just to clarify a very small misunderstanding that some few people might have, but it's not really an issue. Again, neither of these options are how you should fill in your ballot, and thankfully, almost no one fills out a referendum ballot incorrectly, because it is, like I said, very simple. The directions are on the ballot and they're very clear. The AEC has translation services and informal voting in referendums is just in general incredibly low, with 0.86% of votes in the 1999 Republic referendum being informal and only a small portion of those being related to ticks and crosses. Compare this with general elections over the past 20 years, and there's an average of about 3.5% informal votes for the Senate and 5.1% informal votes for the House of Representatives. Basically, people are voting incorrectly up to 4 to 6 times more often just at an election than they would at a referendum. This is in part because a Senate and a House of Representatives ballot is more complex. The AEC has to carry out elections and referendums by the legislation that shapes them. And the legislation for referendums have been around for decades. The tick and cross rule has been around since at least 1988. The legislation governing referendums was reviewed back in 2022, and there were no objections raised on the matter of ticks and crosses by the government or the opposition. So generally speaking, the rules around this have bipartisan support across the political spectrum. While some individuals may disagree, I'm sure someone in the comments thinks that this is a silly rule, well, I must remind you that it is ultimately just a very limited discussion over how to treat a very small subset of incorrectly filled out ballots that have an inconsequential effect on the outcome of a referendum, because this is literally so few votes it wouldn't matter. Even if we were to make it so that the rule said that a tick was definitely yes and a cross was definitely no, it still would not affect the outcome of a referendum. So remember, as always, please pay attention and follow the directions on your ballot, and visit aec.gov.au for up-to-date and official information on how voting in elections and referendums work. The AEC website also allows you to enroll to vote and update your details. A reminder that voting in referendums, just like general elections, is compulsory, meaning you need to both enroll and also vote. So have fun Research information ahead of time before you vote. It's always useful and makes you more confident and secure in how you want to express your opinion. Thank you so much for tuning in. Comment down below what you would like to learn about next. Share, subscribe, all those sorts of things. And thank you so much to my supporters on Patreon. I'll see you next time.